Hey guys, Arvindh here, and today I want to answer and ask the same question. Is your email list lying? Dying? I've been sending out emails for quite some time now. I've been sending out daily emails, and over time what happened is that as my list has grown, the number of people who are opening and clicking has increased, right? But as a percentage of the overall number of people who are there on my list, the rates are seeming to drop. Right? And this has often caused me a lot of fear, stress, and quite a few bouts of stomach upset, if you will, wondering what is happening. Now, before I go further into the video, I just want to let you know that, hey, there are a bunch of other factors that go into this, like, what kind of emails you're sending, what is the SPF records, what is the DK. I'm not talking about all of that, right? Some email inboxes don't even let you know if your email's been opened and all that. So still, discounting all of that, assuming that all other things stay the same, this is a fear that I often have. Is my email list dying, right? Now, in true RPG fashion, if you were to meet the monster, there are a couple of symptoms that pop up, right? A couple of things that we really got to be clear about as to what I mean by is your email list lying, right? Number one, it's a stale email list, right? The opens and clicks, they're stagnating. You're getting low clicks, low engagement. And most important factor, in my book at least, is the creeping fear in the pit of your stomach. Are you a worthy entrepreneur? Well, at least that's what the imposter syndrome in my head is, unfortunately British, and it is now stuck, and I'm going to continue with that for some part of the video. Now, this monster about, hey, your email list dying is a very real one, and it has some pretty powerful stuff. And the thing is that this monster gets its power because your audience, they're bored, right? That could be one of the reasons why you might feel that your email list is dying. You're sending out stuff that is irrelevant to them. Or even if it's relevant, it's useless, right? They can't act on it. One of my good friends last week told me, like, Arvindh, you have a great framework, you have a great idea, but it's very strategic, right? I can't implement it, so it's useless to me. He doesn't know this until he watches this video. I cried a lot that day. Now, that said, I do send out daily emails, right? And what happens is that it can lead to overwhelm, right? There are a couple of people that I really look up to when it comes to daily emails, such as Ben Settle and Jonathan Stark. But I understand it's not necessarily everyone's cup of tea. And that said, this is another thing that it's very hard to digest, but you can think of your customer's journey with you like a journey on a train, right? They're with you for a couple of stations, but when their destination comes on, they're going to hop off, right? And it's not necessarily your fault, but hey, it is what it is one of the things. Now, if this monster's powers continue unabated, one, that opens and clicks is just going to steadily decline, leading you to a lot of lower business growth, low money. But I think this is one of the bigger problems, right? Apathy. When your customer is getting trained almost subconsciously to ignore your content because, whatever, right? It's going to be the same stuff again and again. That's bad. That's really bad for you and your business, especially if you're going to be relying on email, because email's got to be one of the most powerful communication platforms out there, communication channels for you, because there's massively reduced platform risk and you're still in control. Speaking of which, if you haven't exported your email subscribers, please do that today. You don't want to lose that and end up crying, right? And that said, all of these problems can again lead to a place where your self-confidence is shattered. Now, I'm saying this from I'm here. I'm like, oh my God, my list is small, but they're not opening. What am I doing wrong? That's where I am. I don't want you to join me here, right? It's not nice. Right. If you have this monster, here are some strategies that you can use to fight it. Number one, use variety. I know it sounds pretty straightforward, but I don't mean just variety in terms of write like different emails, but more specifically, I want you to consider topics, right? So even if you are talking under one umbrella, what are different things that you can you can talk about, right? So for example, if I'm talking about marketing for devs and solo founders, I can talk about email marketing one day. I can talk about using visuals. I can talk about customer development and speaking to customers. So I have a variety of buckets that I can talk about within my overall umbrella, right? So themes and buckets. That's a good mental model for you to use. Next, can you vary up the structure? I like to always, and this is my fault or my strength, I don't know, the jury's still out. I like to start with a story. Then I have a segue where I'm connecting. A segue is a connector. And then I have a sales pitch. Now the sales pitch could be for an idea, for a topic, for an action, or for a course or a workshop or my coaching services or whatever those things are, that pops up as well, right? And finally, in terms of presentation, I make great videos. I might have not shaved today, but my voice sounds like, oh boy, it sounds really good. Now, sometimes I send in videos. Sometimes I put in like a big mind map. Sometimes I send out screenshots, right? There is a bit of variety that's available as well. Next, I found that speaking to the customer is like a big plus, right? Like you literally get on a call with a customer, you try to understand what are their problems, what are they struggling with? And it's daunting, especially if you're not someone who's inclined to have these sort of conversations with customers. You'll be like, oh my God, I can't do this. That's a real problem, right? But if you have a set of few open-ended questions that you can just go ahead and ask them to start off this conversation. And if you want those questions, leave a comment and I'll respond to it. It's very, very easy. And after that, all you got to do is just keep on asking questions and follow-up questions. Like today, I just had a chat with a great person, Morris Grant, right? He's a marketer from Create, Grow, Profit. That's right. I got that. CreateGrowProfit.com. Check him out. Great stuff. And we spoke for an hour. We don't know where the time went. And both of us were just asking each other questions, right? There was no agenda per se. So very, very useful stuff. Writing better subject lines. Yes, this seems like a no-brainer, but you can test out these subject lines. I'm going to be teaching you those in the cheat codes, but writing better subject lines is a great way. You can do A/B testing in your email marketing software. You can practice writing better subject lines by studying things like copywriting and psychology and motivation, right? If you want a great starting point, I would recommend that you check out the Octalysis framework by Yu-Kai Chow, which talks about the 8 core drives every single human has, right? And you can use that to kind of give you ideas about how to write your subject line. What is that core reason that you want to give your customers to open that email? How can you incentivize them, right? So that's one thing. And of course, stories. I like stories because they are inherently me. And if I wish I could speak in this British accent so that it provides another perspective, but more importantly, it gives a very strong hook, right? Every single day, it's like there's a soap opera going on in my life. So I'm sharing that bit as a story. And again, please note, I do daily emails. You probably are going to be doing weekly emails. Stories can still work, right? You can still check out how, for example, Jacob Grenfeld does that too. Fantastic newsletter. I really, really enjoy his stuff. All right. That said, when you're trying to implement all of these battle strategies, this wily monster has a bunch of traps laid out for you. So you got to be careful, right? Number one is self-doubt. I'm telling you, right? Running a business is like mostly, what is this? Mental game, right? You got to be confident. And there are chinks in your armor. Like you can get into a funk. I have been in funks for like 5 days, I think, right? And this self-doubt is crippling. I've goofed up time zones. I have goofed up strategic thinking sessions. I'm so stressed that I can't even play Diablo 4. And do you know how horrible that is for me? Super duper horrible, right? But this is something. And it's not just the email list, but for entrepreneurship, for being a founder, head game is critical, right? So take care of that. Next, statistically insignificant data. In statistics, there's a certain way to calculate whether the result of an experiment is valid or not, right? And most of Twitter experimentation, that part of Twitter, right? They don't talk about this. The key thing is that you need to have sufficient data to say whether this is valid or not. In most cases, you don't have access to this, right? You don't have access to enough data. You could get a couple of indicators, and then what you do is you look for a couple of signals, right? The best way to generate signals is to talk to customers. Otherwise, look at whatever data that you have, and then you make your judgments, you make your decisions based on that. But remember, this is statistically insignificant. So whatever you get, take it with a pinch of salt, right? And finally, there's a delta between your vision and a strategy. Vision is where you want to get to, right? That paradise that you have, but the strategy is what is the route you're going to be taking through the map, right? Now, it could be that, hey, you have a vision to build out like a, I don't know, 40,000 annual revenue business, right? 40,000 USD. That's my goal right now. And if you're trying to build that out, there are many ways to do that, right? I could just say, you know what, chuck all of this. I'm going to go find myself a job. And the British me will say, well done, chap. I'm assuming that's what they would say, but that's the imposter syndrome, mind you. Now, what happens there is that is one path. Another thing is I could just invest all of my time and effort in like launching new courses, or I could just keep on building out that one funnel and like boom, 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 just focus on that, right? There are many different ways, but while I'm implementing these things, I should not lose sight of that big goal. The email list is going to be one part of your entire business strategy, right? So don't let this consume you, make you think of it day and night, right? You don't want that. You want to understand that, hey, this is a part of the business, yes, but it is just a part of the business, an important part, but there are other aspects as well. So don't get like, consumed by it. Now, that said, some cheat codes. Number one, social content testing. Many of the ideas that I send out on email and the other content ideas I create as well are connected. Like I test them out on Twitter, right? I test them out as like tweets that I'm putting out. I'm seeing like, hey, are people responding to this kind of stuff? I am by no means very methodical or organized about it, but this is a viable strategy. I test this out a lot more in conversations that I have with people. It's much easier that way, right? That's a great way for you to test out your idea such that it's going to be interesting and fun for your email audience so that, you can revive your email list. Next up, funnel optimization. I spoke a little bit about statistical and insignificant data, but this is about, you got to understand, right? In your funnel, there's the part where you need to get visibility, right? Like, can you get your stuff in front of enough people? Next, once they're in your ecosystem, are you nurturing them enough? Are you keeping them engaged, right? You got to think about that. And finally, you got to think about conversion as well. How can you make the sale? If you understand that your funnel is split into three parts, you need to ask yourself, the emails that you're sending out, are they a part of helping you get more visibility? Are they part of getting you more like nurturing, helping you bond better with your audience? Or are they a matter of getting you more conversions, right? Helping you make that sale. And once you understand that, what happens is that you understand what are the metrics that are more important. For example, let's say if you're focused on conversion, right? Then pretty much the main metric that matters is sales. And then you could work backwards one step and you can see the number of link clicks. That's important. Number of opens, whether it's active or not, doesn't really matter. If you're looking at nurturing, maybe what you're looking for is responses from people, not necessarily opens or clicks or stuff like that, right? If people are responding to you by replying to your email, boom, you have something super duper valuable. And when it comes to visibility, particularly when you're like swapping email lists with somebody else, or you're sending out a sponsored content, the opens, the clicks, the shares, all of those begin to take importance. And finally, and I hinted on this before, another cheat code that you can use to defeat this monster is to try out a variety of formats. Now, you might have seen traditional newsletters, they have the same structure. People know what to expect. They're sent out once a day. There's a whole bunch of stuff in them, a whole bunch of links. Try that out as a format. You could also have this other email that's written to you as a friend. I'm your friendly neighborhood marketer. Bye-bye. And, I send out my emails like that. I also have like a very distinct reframe of this whole thing as, hey, your business has been gamified. Let's get you to profitability, right? So that's sort of a very personal sort of an email could be there. You could also try, like how the e-commerce sites send out. Maybe you could try that. One time you could send out a listicle, which is an article that's a list. There are many videos. How could I forget videos? These are many different ways that you can do, that you can follow to go ahead and create a bunch of content that's going to be interesting to your audience. All right. So in summary, let's quickly go through this. You got a monster, which is that your list is dying. It's mainly because of boredom and variety, lack of variety. It's going to kill your business if you don't do it properly. If you want to fix it, we have a bunch of different ways, which is introduce variety, speak to your customers, get better subject lines, and finally, include a bunch of stories, right? And of course, you have cheat codes as well. Now, go ahead and do this yourself, right? And it's pretty easy. It's pretty straightforward. And that's it. If you are struggling, reach out to me through the link below if you want some help in executing all of this. I am here to help. And of course, my imposter syndrome will be there with you as well. Farewell, dear friend, or farewell, dear friend. See you in the next one.